Welcome to the Solar Case Marketer Podcast. I am Brandon, and I am here with three guests. First off, I want to introduce Kayla. She is the VP of Sales for Solar Glean, and next to me, to my left, I also have Gio. He's the CEO and founder of Solar Glean. And lastly, but not worstly, I have Amir, CEO of Core Fusion. And I'm pleased and honored to be here with all three of you. This is our first, but not last. And, let's just get right into it. I know Gio introduced me to you, Kayla. And, in the solar industry, it's considered a hustle, And
For
how
sure.
would you consider yourself like you hustled early on in your childhood?
In my childhood,
Yeah.
it's a good question.
Next question. Huh?
Well, I grew up playing basketball all my life. That sport in itself is a hustle. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, so I actually played for Christ the King. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that high school, but it's a pretty big basketball program there. So I think being a part of that program and just growing up in my neighborhood really taught me a lot about, hustling, grinding, and, doing my best and being my best. So it definitely has to do with the sport in itself.
Can I mind saying that's Sebastian Telfair that played for that school? Or I could be wrong, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
They
I
come out of
believe
that
so.
school, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
We had a few people come out of there.
A whole lot. What are you talking about?
So, Kayla, if I could refer, right? You said you played basketball, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just for the audience asking out there and for myself as a peace of mind, does that help you in sales? Like that competitive, vibe, I guess?
Absolutely. I think that's something that Gio and I look for when we're recruiting individuals or energy consultants. Do you have any previous experience in sports? Because that means you're automatically coachable, you're competitive. And there's just a lot of skills that you can really translate to sales when you were an athlete in the past.
Yeah.
Cool.
You have a different kind of mindset.
Sure.
Yeah.
Growing up, I got introduced to sales in the lunchroom in the high school. No, believe it or not. People, ever since Obama passed a bill that restricted certain type of calories for each student in the lunchroom, a lot of people wanted those sweets. So I would go to Costco with my mom, and we would buy the big boxes that have like the chips. I would buy the big bundles that have like Snickers, Skittles, all those. And I'll go in the lunchroom and I'll sell them for triple or
There you
quadruple
go.
the profit.
There you
know?
go.
I'll come home with almost $50. And $50 was a lot to a 12-year-old,
Yeah,
13-year-old,
for
you
sure.
know? And my mom respected the hustle. She was like, yeah, if you need anything to refill your inventory.
I bet you that helps you on the doors right now.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Nice.
I completely agree.
Cool.
Speaking about that, what is the future for solar, Gio? What do you think?
Solar definitely has a bright future.
No pun intended, obviously.
So, the market in the U.S. is probably about 3, 4, 5% right now. So there's a long way to go. And it's just the way to go for many reasons. Environmentally, obviously, that should be the main reason. But unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, most homeowners go solar because of the financial savings attached to it. But the future looks bright. Obviously, it's not only us, but many other countries are going in that direction too as well. And I see nothing but a strong upside in the solar market.
Just unpotential, just like an untapped resource right there.
Untapped resources. If you put it like this, solar is the place to be.
Yep.
And there's so many positives that can come from it that it can literally change people's lives, not only homeowners, but, individual consultants as well. And, as you know, Amir, we started in solar together almost 10 years ago. And it took us a little bit, some time to get to this point, but anybody that's joining solar now, you don't have to travel that long road that
Right.
Amir and I travel. That road is much shorter.
How different was it 10 years ago?
Well, we're a little bit different
Because
here.
Amir tells me the same thing. He's like, you guys have it easy now compared to
Yeah, it's
what I
true.
had it 10 years ago.
By far, you guys have it easy. You know, my venture into solar was a little bit different. It was more an accident. I would say it's a good accident because I ended up obviously loving what I'm doing. But, you know, back then, you know, we were probably going on like 60, 70 appointments, driving from here to there.
130,000 miles
yeah.
on my Nissan Altima.
Talk
Exactly,
about
right?
hustle.
We were closing as a group. We are probably
That's
doing
right.
like 112 deals a month, right?
Sure.
Yeah, and that was just our group.
Grinding.
And we were pretty much putting up, you know, 15, 16, 17 deals a month. We were always on the top.
How many people were in your group?
About 40.
Okay.
About 40.
Yeah,
Right.
I think 1 month we set the record at the company at the time. I think we did like 1 point something or 2 point something million
Yeah.
for a
we did.
month in
Yeah.
sales. So
Yeah, we were just closing.
Crushing it.
killers, huh? Killers.
Yeah. One of the few things, one of the first things I remember in solar, I never met at the time. I didn't really meet him yet, and we were speaking over the phone, and he called me up. We were talking about an appointment or what have you, and he had one. He said, "Hey, Gio, I have an appointment for you. Just go take it. It's mine, but you go and you do it, or come with me." I think he ended up switching it around, but he said, "Hey, don't worry about it. That commission is all yours." He never even met me. We just spoke over the phone, and that was literally one of my first experiences in solar. So I won't say for whatever it's worth, that was worth a lot because I still remember that to this day.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that. When I first started solar, I had just regular jobs, you know, Best Buy, this and that. And when I started working for the company I was working for back then, I noticed that when you work in solar, you grow as a family. Like you're more closer to your coworkers than you are to your, you know, let's say like your McDonald's, to the cook than to the fryer, you know?
Right.
People
right.
are in there, they're in there and they're out. They don't want to hear nothing. They just want to do their shift, get that minimum wage, whatever you're doing.
Right.
But
right.
here at Solar, you know, as you just mentioned, Amir gave you that. He's like, hey, it's my appointment, but here you go. That's
Yeah.
Do you relate that, Gio, to the like that was the past, right? Like in the present, and you're like I'm happy for you. You own your own company and you're training, you know, hundreds of people's, and in front of me you train hundreds of people to, you know, how to sell solar, right? Do you feel like that same teamwork or that team or that team play still there and like present day solar?
You know, truthfully, we come across so our method is slightly different compared to, you know, your traditional way of selling solar. We're not necessarily, we're basically a virtual solar company. We haven't, we've never really done door knocking at all, right? So we're set up virtually, you know, to expand in different states and so on. So are they different? Yes, because a lot of our consultants, they haven't experienced the other side of solar, you know, the nitty gritty. You got to get down and dirt and do. They haven't experienced that, right? At least on our team, they coming in and we essentially set up a program that everything is laid out for them. And you know, sometimes you wonder if they really appreciate that scenario, you know, because you know we don't ask them to door knock. We basically say, here, this is your, you know, here's a lead, go and close it.
But I want to add to that. Do you think it causes weak closers?
Does it cause? I don't know if I would interpret it as a weak closer. I would say more. You know, it's like I don't know how many of you have children, but you know, I have a son, and you know, to try to explain to my son how we grew up back in the day and how different he's not going to understand that, right? He grew up a different way. So the gap might be because they've never seen that other side. So I wouldn't say necessarily that they're weak. They just didn't see that side. right?
Different experience.
It's different experience, right, right. But it's still up to us, Kayla and myself, to turn them into strong closers no matter what. Yeah, they have some responsibility too, but we're running a company. So it's we're responsible for
Sure, and that's interesting that you said that because a couple of weeks ago, actually, I was at SolarCon in Utah in Salt Lake City, and I took a seminar class for virtual selling, and it was the new thing. People were talking about it, and shout out to Jake. He put up a good conference, and I took that class, and it was mind blowing what I was hearing, like results from other solar companies in the industry, and it was great. And when I came back, I talked to our executive team, and I said, you know what, we need to get into this virtual thing. Yeah, especially if we want to open up markets like in other states.
Yeah.
And instead of taking that team, it saves time, it saves effort, And even though they were saying the closing ratios were slightly lower than being in the homes, I feel like if you have the right procedure or the right tactics, I think you can probably kill that in the future.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. That's my opinion. I think that's a really good way to get through maximum amount of people and, kind of scale up.
And I think it's easier now, since COVID, people are more comfortable with the virtual world, everything being over Zoom, video conferences. Beforehand is different, you have your door-to-door concept, which is normal, but ever since COVID, it's like everyone's accustomed to working from home now and, taking all their calls online. So it works in our favor.
Sure.
Yeah. And, the funny thing is, before COVID, we were actually set up to do virtual sales.
That's right. Everybody was, right?
No, I mean before COVID.
Oh, even before COVID.
Before
Okay,
COVID,
sorry,
we
I
were set
said-
up to do Zooms and stuff like that, but it wasn't an accepted practice.
You're right.
But once COVID happened, it's like, wow, we're already set up to do this. So we didn't really have to transition that much because we already had a platform to do virtual appointments.
So what would you say is the pros and cons of doing a virtual compared to in person?
Pros and cons.
Yeah.
I mean, the pros, it's just, it's more efficient. Think about it. When you guys were doing solar back in the day, you had to drive to every appointment. You got to consider mileage, gas, commute time. Here, everything is on the computer. I can take more appointments, for one, meaning I can close more deals. So you have a larger reach, and obviously you're working from the convenience of your home. Of course, you're going to have no-shows. That's a part of the business. That's even with door knocking. But I see more pros than cons, to be honest. And again, it's all in your approach and, how you go about this part of the business. Is the homeowner going to show up? So I see more pros than cons. I don't know what you think, Gio.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like we can, basically reach any market just because we are, we're virtual, right? Believe it or not, 96 of our closers are virtual.
Awesome.
Yeah, whether they're in New Jersey, New York, Florida's a slightly different market. They prefer more of an in-person thing. But New York, New Jersey, Cali, they're pretty strong so far. They prefer the virtual thing. At least with us, we don't see any problems with that at all.
I mean, I would say that you just have to take a little bit more time building rapport because you're not with this person in person. We're meeting them virtually, so you really have to build that trust and relationship with the homeowner.
Awesome.
What makes Florida so different?
So for me, I like to think every state has their own characteristics, their own personality, and so on. And Florida is just a situation or area that most people prefer that personal interaction. We travel to Florida often, and we come across, and for the most part, you have to be able to speak 2 languages. And both of us, Kayla better than myself, we both speak Spanish and English, so that's an advantage to us. But it's just a different, they just have a different I guess, persona or what have you.
Yeah,
They just prefer that.
They're a little
yeah.
crazy over there.
I would,
A little crazy over there.
I wouldn't say they're crazy, but they just
They never respected the mask mandate. They're like, what's COVID, you know?
But I can tell you this: every single family that we met in Florida, they have been like really great, a pleasure
Nice
to meet,
people.
nice people, welcoming. So outside of whatever mandate or whatever is going on, we've really have not met anyone. We've met nothing but good and great people, nice people. Yeah.
So you said that each state has its characteristics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Characteristics, right?
Mm-hmm.
What state is the most successful for you?
What state?
Yeah.
Well, with me, it's not gonna
the Zoom
matter
calls.
because Amir, no, we're. You mean for Zoom calls?
Yeah, for Zoom calls.
Oh, well, with me, it's not really gonna
It don't really matter, right?
because
Just a homeowner's a homeowner.
I sit in front of you as a rap.
Basically,
So,
I would
but I
say-
understand what you're saying. I'm
So,
just
yeah.
being funny right now.
So basically, it's probably just a numbers game, like Kayla said earlier, right? The more people you get in front of, right, the more people you close, follow the program, build rapport, and the higher the closing ratio, right?
Yeah.
I mean, our home state is New York, New Jersey. That's where, we have most of our clientele. But as we continue to expand, like Gio said, as long as you put a homeowner in front of us, we're very confident that we'll be able to help them transition to solar.
Cool.
Like we spoke about earlier, solar is like untapped resources. Like, how would you make $1 million, a salary though, in solar?
You know what? I'm asked this question by every millennial. Like, how do you make $1 million in solar? I'm like, how do you make $1 million in anything? Right? In my perspective, like in experience, and like if you solve that formula, that's what I call it. Like this simple formula in any type of, product selling, not even solar, right? I mean, number one is you got to have the product, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a product that sells, and obviously we all can agree solar sells, right?
Right.
We all been around it for so long. And the second thing is you need to know how to sell that product, right? You can't just have a product and you don't believe in it and you don't know how to sell it, right? So if you know how to sell that product, then you're confident. Then now you know that I can sell this product, right?
Right.
And the third thing, and it's a sad thing, right? Like a lot of companies and a lot of people don't believe in it, right? And I kind of think it's stupid. I'm sorry to say it, right? Like people don't believe in this, right? And it's branding, right? Now you got the product. Now you know how to sell the product, right? But how are you going to get in front of people, right? And I believe branding is the biggest key, and I believe marketing is the biggest key. And a lot of companies don't put money in that, And like for example, Gio just mentioned before the podcast started, like I'm wearing Hugo Boss shirt, right? Why can't I wear any particular shirt, right? Everybody makes polos, you can go into Walmart, Target, right? Why particularly like Louis Vuitton, Chanel, Hugo Boss, whatever? Why are these companies like? Why do they charge so much money for their product, right? You got to understand how much money are they putting into branding,
Right.
And we should take a lesson from that. Like when you think of the car industry or electric cars, like Gio,
Right.
think of Tesla, right, Kayla?
Mm-hmm.
When you think of some sort of a sports team, or something, or basketball, you think of the Wilson ball, right?
Mhm.
That's like the evil ball, right? now we're all in this industry, right? If I really become frank, right? When we think of solar, does any particular company come in place? Like, solar? Not really, right? Like there's 50,000 solar companies, installers right now, right? But when you say solar, does any particular brand come in? Like, yo, boom, this is the company I'm going to invest my money in, or I'm going to go with that company. Like a lot of companies haven't really found out that formula of branding in solar, which I think is an open market,
Well, I will say this: the branding definitely. That's something that we have been working on since we started Solar Gleam. And but one more thing I will add to the mix:
Sure.
You got to have a process and a procedure because, branding. Obviously, we all need it as well as sales. But once you set a process in place, the process is going to get you to that $1 million mark. And branding is just going to enhance that process to get you there. So, I don't want to say too much, but we have a nice process in place.
Nice.
So I remember Kayla and I when we're doing solar, we were just talking about $1,500 here and there, and that conversation went to I don't want to say too much, but that conversation went to 10, 15 grand. We don't even think 10, 15 grand anymore. We're already thinking,
Scaling.
when is the next $1 million?
That's right.
Not next, because we didn't make the $1 million yet, but we're thinking about $1 million now.
Yeah,
And because we have a process in place.
and definitely, you guys are selling the product, you have the process in place, and you said it yourself, you're branding more, right? And you're putting money into that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in particular, when I first started out in the solar industry, I didn't really believe in social media. I didn't really believe in putting my stuff out there or letting people know about it. I was a little bit of a shy guy. I think throughout my journey, I think I worked with several companies that Gio knows, and I've trained hundreds of people on how to sell solar, and I really come across, and I really am convinced, right, that social media is a very, very powerful platform, to get your name out there, to get your brand out there. And I feel like it's free advertising that every solar consultant out there should take advantage of, because when I first got in this industry, I always used to struggle to make my pipeline. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people struggle to make their pipeline, People come into the business, people come in our sales team, and they always say, hey, how do I make my pipeline? How do I do this? I got to wait for the company lead to come in. I got to wait for this lead to come in. Why do I get washed up leads? You hear the same thing every single time, right? Like, I always relate to them. I told them, look, when I first got into the industry, I didn't take a company lead, and Gio's my witness right here, I built my pipeline right through my private networks. But I remember I was involved in a basketball group. I was involved in several other sports groups, I was in a BNI group, right? And I just used my connections to kind of brand myself, right? And I mean, to advertise myself. But then when I really got into it, I was like, you know what? If I can get in front of these people, how many groups are there that I can actually get in front of? How many people are there that I can actually get in front of? Especially now with the tax credit all shaky. Even though Gio's about to comment on that, I know he's a believer of the extension. But, with everything shaky and everybody wanting this, with inflation coming in and recession coming in, right? I think it's a critical thing to get into the use social media platform.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something that I utilized coming into this industry when I first started with Gio. We were getting appointments, but the quality of the lead just wasn't there. So like you, I had to tap into my private network. And during COVID, I actually created my own brand before Solar Gleam, which is the Solar Queen. And it was catchy. People liked it. And so then I started utilizing social media to educate people about solar. And that's how I really started to build traction. So to be honest, most of my clientele is not even company leads. It's all self-generated business. Cool. And then after a while, you start to, of course, get referrals. But I agree 100%, social media. But in order to scale, like Gio said, and to the capacity that we want to grow, we definitely need a system.
Sure.
And of course, a great team as well. So people, obviously.
Yeah.
Awesome.
How do you maintain, when you grow your company, how do you maintain those sales reps for the long term?
That's a $1 million question.
You're the perfect guy to answer
Right.
it.
How do you maintain them? I mean, it boils down to this. They either want it or they don't want it. Because I'm a firm believer, people are motivated by many different things. If you really want something, you don't need anybody outside than yourself to motivate you. You'll get up and you do it, right? I play golf a lot. Nobody got to wake me up to play golf. I'm up before you. You know what I mean? A lot of times, people come into the solar industry and they hear the type of money that you can make, and they don't realize that, for the first year or the first 6 months, you got to really put in some heavy duty work.
It's hard.
And it's hard. But it gets easier over time, right? So they hear the money and it sounds great, but now you got to you're in the game now, right? You got to produce. Now, they're either not doing the work when we're not looking, and they're not, perfecting their craft or their game or whatever. They're not doing that. So they struggle a little bit. One thing I can tell you from 100% with Kayla, when she started in the solar industry with me and several companies ago, I never had to go chasing her to say anything about solar. I knew 7 o'clock in the morning, I was getting a call or I was getting a FaceTime, and we were talking solar from 7 a.m. all the way through to, 10, 11 o'clock at night sometimes after midnight. And that's how it went pretty much for the first 2 years. She don't talk to me much now because, she's good, she don't, but, I never had to, I never really had to really, she wanted it from the beginning, put it like that.
You never had to motivate her too much.
Didn't have to motivate her. I mean, I still, did my part, and I didn't encourage just for the sake of encouraging because that's like a participation trophy, right? I literally said what I felt and what was true. So I would give her compliments when she deserved it, and most times she did, and but it was honest compliments and so on. So, but then you have other people that come in, and the funny thing is a lot of people are not necessarily motivated by money.
Yeah.
Because if they were motivated by money and the type of money we make in the solar industry, everybody would be
crushing it.
Crushing it, right? So there's always something else, and some people have it, some people don't. Some people you have to develop them.
Yeah.
Amir, how do you turn? Sorry for interrupting.
No, go ahead.
How do you turn those C players into A players?
That's a great question. And I'm pretty sure Gio got something to say on that also, right? But definitely, I would say, how do you turn those C players into A players, right? Sometimes you got to give them time, right? Like going back to what Gio said earlier, right? We used to hire a lot on, Indeed and other platforms. Shouldn't name them, rental, but we used to get a lot of resumes, a lot of talk, right? I used to have like 100 people, and you've been there with me, hiring them, and they used to come in and give a big talk. They know it all and everything, But what I really think out of all these years, and Gio, you can probably agree with this or not, right? But I feel like the best person, you said it about Kayla, is not the person with the best skill set, right? Particularly, you don't need that skill set because we can teach that, right? We can come across. I learned it. He learned it. We came through that cycle. But I think is that person that can show up every day.
Yeah.
Who can bring it to the table, just show up. I tell him, look, you might not be the perfect salesperson or sales woman or salesman or whatever, right? Just show up. Just show up every day, right? And we'll take it from there. You know. So eventually, to answer your question, Brandon, I think the C player, if you give him some time, you give him the right coaching, the right mentor, right? Like Gio was to Kayla, right? And what I have done to other people, right? I think that right person will pick it up one day. Like just keep coming in and keep learning a little bit here and there, a little bit here and there. Actually, I'm gonna give a shout out to one of our reps, right? I believe it was Sean. Sean, if you're watching, right? Shout out to Sean. And this guy was driving Uber a couple of months ago, right? And I was telling him, you got to get into solar, and just try it because he's one of my good friends, right? And he was hearing me for 6-7 months, right? And he finally came on like 3 to 4 months ago, right? And the first month he wasn't really, the skill set wasn't there, but he showed up every day. He showed up every day. He showed up every day. And last month he pulled in 10 deals.
Nice.
And that's just exciting. That's my motivation right there. When you guys said earlier, it's not about the money, because you said in the solar industry we make a lot of money, right? So if you're really gonna put your mind on money, then you're really not gonna go anywhere, you know. But that's what my motivator is to turn that C player into an A player, and see it within your eyes, like they're growing within your company, and we're respecting that person or that employee. And like I said, at Core Fusion Solar, we don't only respect the customer. We want to have a good customer experience, and a customer has to have the ultimate experience, right? but we also want our sales rep to feel comfortable with the company, right?
Right.
Like we make it fun. Like when we're in the office, you've been a couple of our meetings, right?
Right.
Like we have Top Golf outside outings. Like we go to
That's how he gets me.
yeah,
Top golf.
Top Golf, and I mean, we have a blast, right? So we believe in investing in our employees, also our sales guys, paying them. So not only are they in the best industry, getting the best commissions, right? But I want them to feel like they have a meaning.
Right.
They have a meaning to be here and come every day, and bring that energy that they have a future with this company. So that's how I would think about the C to A players.
And
So-
I think that answers your question about how do you maintain or keep these reps in within your company in the long run is really company environment, company culture, and having fun while you're at it.
Yeah. So you started the solar industry with Gio, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does it feel to be a woman in a male-dominated industry?
It's fun. Like I said, I grew up playing basketball in Brooklyn. I grew up playing street ball. So all my life, I've always been in a space that has been male-dominated. So I guess I was never really intimidated by it growing up. I felt like if you can do it, I can do it.
I can do it better.
Exactly. If anything, I have an advantage as a woman in this industry. And that's actually another motivating factor for me. I actually, our team,
Yeah, we have mostly
good
women.
Nice.
a good majority of our energy consultants are women.
Yeah.
And some of them are crushing it.
Yeah,
They really are.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love to see that because, we want to help as many, everyone, of course.
Sure.
But yeah, we want to help more women take advantage of, this industry. But it was never intimidating for me. Like I said, I played ball all my life. So it was a pretty simple transition. I just needed to learn the industry. I needed someone who was going to commit to me because I knew I was going to commit to him. And it was pretty much that simple.
So I got a question for you, Kayla, right? As us being in this industry, and obviously when we first started, female was probably minimum.
Maybe
probably
one.
enough. Probably one to probably, it was-
Yanina.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it was like, really. It
And
was
she was crushing it.
she was crushing it,
Yeah,
right? Now,
yeah.
but we could pretty much agree with Kayla. It was a male-dominated industry, and I see
Probably
it's changing.
still is. It's changing a little bit.
It is. I was at SolarCon and I saw the female panel, and it was brilliant. I saw the power come in on that. But to ask you, right, Kayla, is what would you give a suggestion, right, to I guess all the hiring managers out there or the solar industry, right? What would make a female more comfortable at the table in a hiring process when there's more male dominated audience around? The comfortable feeling. How would you kind of make it comfortable for them instead of making it a little uncomfortable?
I think, again, it comes to mindset and their previous experiences. It depends. Like if this woman came from a corporate background, if she already has a sales experience, if she's a teacher, you're a natural educator, right? And in this industry, that's what we do. We educate homeowners. So what would I tell them? The same thing I would tell anyone else. I think as a woman in a leadership position, that alone can be inspiring to many. And if they see that, they see, okay, if she can do it, I can definitely do it. But again, it really comes down to mindset and taking the time to study the material, mastering the material, because that's what's important. Once you have that down, then you're going to be unstoppable in this industry. And like I said, as a woman, you have an advantage. No offense to you guys, but women are just more trustworthy naturally.
Sure.
You make a phone call to a lead, and this has happened to me many times where the lead would say, I answered and I decided to move forward with the appointment just because you sound nice. I'll take it. Got the appointment. All right, that's a win for me. But little things like that, that's the advantage that women have. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Well, I will say this. A lot of it have to do also with men. Some men think a certain way. Some men think differently.
Sure.
What I can honestly say before, and I spoke to, because we worked for other solar companies before Solar Gleam, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the conversations I had with Kayla and so on is like, I wanted to focus on bringing women on to the team because they're not really represented in the solar industry.
Sure.
And for reasons that, she mentioned to just now, women are naturally trustworthy, you get that feel. But in terms of, like, for me, for instance, and Kayla can probably, attest to this, it was no different. Like, I specifically, when Kayla came on, there was other couple young ladies that came on. For me, it's treating everybody the same way. It was never, if anything, I liked the fact that she was a woman because I wanted her to excel in this industry, being that there weren't so many women in this type of position, right? So for me, it was a motivational. If I was motivated by anything, I was motivated by the fact that she was unique in the industry, or any woman in this industry at that time was, weren't a lot of them. So I wanted to help push her as much as possible to elevate to whatever the highest level is. Cool. At least that's always been my intention. And obviously in this case, it's Kayla. I spent a lot of time with her in the solar industry and, things like that. But men also have to change their mindset. You know what I mean? It's not they open the door. We're all humans here. Treat everybody as a human being, and you encourage and you push everyone for excellence. Yep. And that's the only thing I look at. No.
And particularly to me, that's an important topic because I'm an all girls dad. Kobe, But yeah, I got 3 girls, right? Yeah. And the future for females is very, very bright, and I'm excited, for the solar industry that's changing. So that's awesome, guys. Good for you,
Yeah. Just today, actually, on my way here, I was speaking to a young lady, and she's coming on board with the team.
Cool.
And I've known her for about a year now, and we talked about solar every now and then, and doing this conversation, she was like, I'm really, really, really excited about joining your company and the team. And, that's good to hear and to see, because there's opportunities out there, for women too as well.
Sure.
And they'll do great.
As the founder and CEO of Solar Gleam, and you correct me if I'm wrong, you said you have 96 reps?
No, I wish I had 96 reps. I'll be walking soon. Well, we don't have 96 reps. We do have, we do have quite amount of reps with every state that we open. We naturally have to add more reps. We have a unique system, unique process. Like I said, most of our deals are 95% virtual. And that gives us a little bit of leverage where we can essentially, recruit anywhere in the United States. We have consultants and reps from Nebraska, Dallas, California, New York, Florida, New Jersey. So we have them all over.
Yeah, so you're coast to coast, right?
Coast to coast.
So how do you scale higher as a solar company?
We have a process in place.
Okay.
The system process. We work very hard. It's funny because, we still close deals. I don't really close as much deals as I did before, but we still close deals. But outside of that, for instance, last night I was up till 3:00 in the morning, working on the process, working on this, working on that. Kayla does the same. That's the part that people don't see. They'll see the deals close and everybody get the shout out. Close the deal, all that, but they don't see the other stuff, the other work, right? And that's been going on since Solar Gleam started 2 years ago, but it's a nice process. So
the pieces are coming together.
Yeah. So
and it's just a matter of, in order to scale, just building the right team, the right people.
Yeah.
I remember back there when Core Fusion first started, and I think you remember when I first launched a couple of years ago. It was headache. It was chaos inside the office. Like, I mean, we were like pulling each other's hairs and back and forth, and everything was all over the place. But like Gio said, I totally agree with that. When you have a process in place, when you have a system in place, it will fall together. It will. If you have that consistency in place, right? Every day you wake up and you work hard, and you just stick to it, that process will work. And as far as scaling up, right, I would like to add one thing on that. Once you have that process and once you have that system, then you can just scale automatically, because now when you take that process and that system and you go into, let's say, Florida or California or Texas, wherever, right, you don't have to start over. You just press that play button, and now you know what's going on, and then obviously as a CEO of the company or founder, you can add more ideas to that, right? But that system is going to keep going and keep going, and God forbid tomorrow one of us dies or something, right? God forbid, right? That system is still going to run.
Still
You
going.
have to understand this, right? This is a mindset thing, right? People don't understand this, right?
Right.
So definitely, good point. If you have a good process, especially in the sales, right, Gio? If you
yeah.
agree with that, if you don't have a good process in the sales side of it, it's gonna all fall apart, like that dominoes effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, good point, because the process and the system, we are almost there. We're almost there. I can get up and, go to Panama and go to Bahamas and enjoy, and the process is still in place. Everybody's good still, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can walk away. The process is still there. So the process is not dependent on. When you have a process, you don't have to worry about having a one-man show or a one-woman show. You know what I mean? The process can always be duplicated and so on, and that's how you scale.
That's how you scale, yeah.
It's the process.
100%.
So, I always say this, especially to the management team: no one man is bigger than the team.
That's right.
And I believe that I've always been a team. I played sports. I'm a sports guy.
Sure.
I'm a baseball guy, not golf. What you think is,
Yeah?
I'm a baseball
Man,
guy. That's my best.
you.
Nah, that's my best sport, man.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was a beast playing baseball.
Mm.
But and I share the story with Kayla all the time. Every sport that I played, and this is the mindset that I have, I never once questioned my coaches, never once did anything negative, even make a negative face. If they say, Gio, go and do this, I just did it. No questions.
Showed up every day.
Showed up every day, an hour and a half early, or at the worst case, I was always there like 2 hours early. Yeah, true story to this day.
Awesome.
How is it? Like, how different is it to be a sales rep than to own the company?
You deal with all the headaches coming at you all at once.
More responsibilities, that's for sure.
Definitely more responsibilities. But to be honest, it's fun. It really is fun. You go from closing deals to make money, then you go through different phases in solar. Now, for me, the excitement that I get right now is how many people can I bring to the table, how we can help them, do well and so on. So, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you everything is, rosy all the time. We the more deals you close, the more headaches you're going to have, right?
That's right.
And we still have to deal with it. Every Monday morning, we're dealing with
more paperwork.
That, and we have our project calls and so on. So, we doing Florida, New York, Jersey. Then it's we just opened in California, as I mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago. Illinois is next on the radar. So
good for you guys. I'm happy for you guys.
What's fun about it is the fact that we can. Every day we wake up and we create. There's always a new idea, and we can create our own ideas and implement whatever we want and make it our own. And I think that's really what also sets us apart from other companies.
And
so
I could also recall, and what Gio said earlier, right, is people don't understand, right? Like, especially when you get like, I know it all salesperson coming in. I know it all, I know you know it all, right? But they don't understand the responsibilities as like a CEO has, right?
Yeah.
Which from my experience, like when I wake up every day, it's flooded. Like my desk is flooded, with different departments. You got the marketing, canvassing department. First of all, it starts with, right, that they bring in your leads and all that. Then you got the COO of the company, and then you got the CFO. Then you got the VP of sales bringing in another headache to you, right? And then you worry about opening up new markets, right? So all these things, definitely, like, sometimes you would think you have a mental breakdown, But definitely, to answer your question on that also, is being a sales rep was so much fun, Like, you just go and you do 4 to 5 appointments, you make your money, and that's it. There's nothing else to worry about. Now you're responsible for so many people,
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest difference.
Not only that, but you're responsible for their livelihood.
Sure.
Right? It's not just responsibility from the standpoint of, or training them to close a deal.
That's right.
Right? Some of these reps, this is what all they have to support their family or themselves or whatever the case is. So from a company standpoint, we have to be responsible, as well from a company standpoint, because if we don't do necessarily the right things or whatever the case is, we are affecting not only us as a company, but we are affecting the entire line.
Sure.
So that's another responsibility or responsible area that we have to be mindful of. It's just not us. So you don't get to the top by yourself, right? You get to the top with a team.
That's right. Facts.
Yeah.
How do you even sell solar? Like, how are you so successful in selling solar throughout these years?
So, I mean, to sell solar successfully goes back to what we were talking about, throughout this conversation. You got to have the right process, right? A lot of sales reps that I train come in, or they come into this industry, right? I know it all. I hate that I know it all, right? Like, you would teach them the whole process, and they would try to cheat it every time. And the funny part is we have a check-in and check-out at our company. So I would like my rep to check in with one of the managers and then check out so we can talk to the customers, right? Mm-hmm. And half of the time when they get in there and then we get a call back after like 10 minutes, and I don't do it much, but I still like miss that. So I do it a lot more, So I sometimes takes the call and he says, hey, boss, I'm ready to close. Kayla's interested and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, how'd you show the process in 10 minutes? Because just building value, if you really follow the presentation, you should have at least spent 30 to 40 minutes in the house just building value, right? Like, it's really easy. You build rapport in the beginning when you enter, right? You build value, and then you go for the close, right? I mean, it's a really easy process, right, Jay, if you really follow it. And I can actually go back from my experience. I'll share a little story when we were working at our first company, right?
Yeah.
I walked in and I got hired, right? And I was the know-it-all, Yeah, I thought I was smarter than everybody, right? And I came in there and they gave me, 5 appointments. So, I drove to my 5 appointment and they told me the rapport, building value, and then you go for the close. Of course, I knew it all, so I skipped the building value part, just smiggled it into 10 minutes, right?
Right.
0 for 7.
Yeesh.
0 for 7, And then my manager had a talk with me, and he said, the hell's going on, And I was so, like, depressed. I'm like, oh, my God, I'm 0 for 7, And he's like, you know what? I have to let you go. I said, give me one more chance. Because at the time, they were giving us company appointments, so it was cutthroat.
Yeah.
So I was like, just give me one more chance. Give me 5 more appointments for the week. So I don't know. I convinced him, and he gave me 5 more appointments for next week. And this time I said, you know what? Cut your ego. What he's telling. It's like this coach, like your basketball coach or whatever. You hate him. He's making you do suicides, right? Because each time he picks the worst free throw shooter to go and shoot that free throw, and then we gotta run those twos. I hate this guy, right? But at the end of the day, he's getting you ready for the game, right?
Right.
So I said, cut your ego. Let's do this the right way. So I actually followed that process, right? And it's a true story. Gio's there, right? I went 7 for 7 the following week. And I completely changed my mindset, completely changed everything about it, right? So definitely to answer your question, Brandon, if you just follow the process, it's like driving the Tesla, right, without changing the battery, right, and putting gas in it, right? The car works perfectly fine as it is, right? And that's why people drive it. So let's just drive that solar car by itself. Let it run by itself. Follow that process, build that rapport, build value, and then go for the close.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as simple as that, to be honest with you. And it's worked for me for years. And Gio, Kayla, Brandon, also yourself. I think that's the critical key.
Yeah. Once you start skipping steps,
that's it, right?
That's it. I mean, you can get off the road a little bit, but come back on and continue the path, right? But once you start skipping steps, that's when you have a close rate. 30%, 20%, whatever it is, and then it drops, right?
People always ask, Gio, they probably ask you too, why is your close rate, and when we were closing, why is your close ratio in the high 50, 60%? Why? Everybody, when we have sales meetings every Friday, they were like asking us questions, right? And they're like, okay, why is your close ratio a mere 67? Felt like a celebrity in there, I'm like, and then Gio heard, I think I took you out one time, right?
Yeah,
and I was like, Gio, this is all I do.
Right,
like, just trust me, just follow it this way, right? And, people who learn, they're in front of you successful right now, today, and they just show up every day. They show up every day, and then they get better. I can tell you countless times how many better salespeople there were than me in that class, which Gio can recall, right? But they didn't make it because they didn't show up every day. They had an excuse, And once you have an excuse, you get a second excuse, you get a third excuse. Bad habits, right? That I always talk about, right? So definitely very, very important. Just follow the process and show up every day. I mean, I can't mention that. That's the truth of it, you know?
Yep.
So, as a pioneer in the women industry in the solar, what advice would you give to people out there?
In regards to,
Well, being a solar consultant.
I mean, I think they pretty much touched on it. As far as being a solar consultant or just any industry, really, you have to be consistent. Some people come into the industry and they crush it in their first week. Some people, it takes a little bit more time. But you just have to, just trust the process, first of all. Trust that it's going to work. Consistently work it, and inevitably you're going to get results. I'm a big believer in personal development. I'm a big believer in constantly developing your mindset, whether it's through podcasts, whether it's through reading, YouTube videos, whatever the case may be, because you have to keep your mind sharp. This industry, it's great, it's lucrative, it's fun. But if you don't have a strong mindset, those challenges and those little challenges and those issues that arise may throw you off if you're not where you need to be mentally. And I think that applies to any sales position in life. But secondly, you just have to be good to people, transparent, be honest, and always talk about solar. Wherever I go, I'm constantly talking about what I do. I talk to everybody about solar. Every single person I walk across, either that's an opportunity for me to close a deal or an opportunity to build a referral partnership. So that's how you have to, that's the perspective you have to have as well. It's kind of like, for me, basketball, I lived it, I breathed it, I ate it. And that's the same concept with solar. So I believe that if you want to be very successful in this industry, you have to go all in to really reap all of the benefits that come along with it.
That's a very important thing that Kayla said about reading. I can actually recall I wasn't a good reader. As a matter of fact, I didn't like going to school. I think Gio knows that, right? And ever since I think I heard a podcast of Grant Cardone, and he told me that ever since he started reading, right, it kind of built his high vocabulary in speaking, public speaking, and the biggest thing that it improved was his motivation, his positivity.
Right.
So definitely reading books, and I would always back it. I would recommend it. You should educate yourself whenever you get a chance. And listen to other people's podcasts, especially experienced people in your industry. I mean, you're just hurting yourself if you're not listening to it.
Right.
But yeah, that was a good point on reading books. Yep.
And surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded or better than you. Because if not, then you're not going to want to elevate to the next level. You always want to surround yourself with people who are going to push you to get to the next level as well.
Yep.
Speaking about friends, how does friends would affect your future? How does it affect how you think in the present?
Yeah, it's very, very important who your circle is. Sorry, circle is, right? Like Kayla just initiated, and I had this big issue with that actually, that I would like to share. You believe it or not, sometimes you're thinking here, like this is your dream, and sometimes your best friend or it could be your cousin, and they're thinking down here, Right. And I always call it there's a gap in between, right? That gap needs to be closed, and believe it or not, needs to be closed ASAP. Otherwise, you're just like hurting yourself, So not in a bad way where you just say, hey, bro, I can't talk to you no more. I'm sorry. Sometimes you just gotta tell them, hey, man, look, Brandon, we're friends, we're cool, we'll play golf together. Maybe we'll play basketball once in a while together, right? But you're not making me see my goal, my vision and my goals right here, and you're not seeing that, So we can't hang out every day. And what did I just do there? I just closed that gap.
Yeah.
You understand? That could be family and that could be friends. Definitely, who you hang out with is who you become, right? And I believe in that because I used to have bad friends when I was in high school and growing up, right? And it always led me to bad things, Ever since I changed that circle, I started hanging out with people who are like-minded or people who are more successful than me, right? What that gives me a goal, is now I want to become like that person, right? So whenever I always give an example when I go on vacation, Gio.
Yeah.
I say that, I love to stay in a 5-star hotel. Why? Why do people stay in 5-star hotels, right?
Yeah. Why do you fly first class?
Why do you fly first class,
Exactly.
right? So I solved that formula actually, right? In a 5-star hotel, they always have a nice bar. They always have a nice lounge, right, Kayla? Right,
Yeah.
Gio? And who's there? It's business people. It's like people like-minded like you, networking, right? So yeah, that's a tip out there. Go whenever you get a chance, go to a 5-star hotel, even if you can't afford it, right? Go there and just hang out there.
Go there anyway.
Go there anyway, and you'll build a great network. Like first
Yeah.
class, like why do people fly first class, right?
That's right.
Right? You gotta surround yourself with like-minded people or people who are better than you. If you stay with that same circle, I'm telling you, that gap is gonna hurt you.
Yeah. Not only that, but when you go first class, make sure you get the first seat, the first row on the
celebrities,
plane.
huh?
First seat, always. I try to get that first seat.
Yeah.
You know, just a different experience. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But you're right. Sometimes your friends and your family don't see what you see, and your vision is here.
Yeah.
But they don't see it. Only you see it, right? And then you have friends, you have family that, they want you to succeed. They want you to do well, but they don't quite see the same vision, right? And, you know, that in itself can slow you down. I'm not saying get rid of your friends or your family. We can't do that either.
Sure.
But at the same time, what I've noticed, a lot of people don't see my vision. You know, they don't see, you know, we want to be in 40 states, right? Are we going to be in 40 states? Yes.
Yeah.
We want to be in 14 states by next year. Are we going to be there? Yes. A lot of people don't see that vision, right? And you know, sometimes, you know, I had to learn this throughout my life that sometimes, you know, friends are friends, family are family, but sometimes you just gotta, you know, move silently by yourself and not necessarily let people, you know, come in within your circle because you're trying to get here. It's just like studying for finals, right?
Sure.
You're trying to pass this final. You know it's coming up. You're gonna pretty much
Separate yourself
and go for it, right?
Of course.
What happens when you go and hang out? You got to come back at the last minute and
got
cram,
time.
and you don't have time. You're gonna more than likely
Like
you're
playing
not-
sports,
Gotta
right?
break night.
Like playing sports. When you want to put that extra workout in, you know,
Yeah.
you know, your friends are saying, "Hey, let's go out, let's go out." You know, you're gonna put the extra workout in so
Gotta
you
get
can
some
perform in the
extra
game.
shots up.
And you know, there's a famous saying that Mark Cuban said. I follow Mark Cuban, one of my favorite, you know, mentors, right?
Yeah.
So he said, if you have $1 million dream, right, don't let somebody who's making $50,000 a year talk you out of it. You know,
Yeah,
which is
doesn't-
very, very true.
doesn't
It
make
really,
any
really
sense.
Doesn't make any
Right.
sense. you know?
And you know, very few people will see what you see, right? Because we all unique in our own. You know, everybody's unique, right? You may have a goal or a vision that's yours,
Sure.
right? You see it. I may not see it, right?
Yep.
But you know, this solar industry, like I said, is great. So I don't, you know, I don't want to like make a lot of money in solar for myself. I want to, you know, bring a team. Let's all do it together. Let's all do it in all these states. Like 10 years ago, were we really thinking 40 states?
No.
We weren't thinking that.
I was thinking like 4 sales.
We were thinking exactly, right? We weren't thinking 40 states. Now, picture is clear as day. Kayla sees it. Luckily, she sees it, so that gap between us is not that, you know, it's a very small gap. Well, there's no gap. Yeah, that's true. You know, no, seriously, that's true. Like, you know, but she sees it,
Sure.
right? I see it, and you know, listen, we're all humans, right? We have ideas. Sometimes my ideas don't work, hers works, right? And vice versa. But we still on the same path. We still see it, you know. And so sometimes it's hard when, you know, people are not on the same page and they don't see it or whatever the case is. But and unfortunately, those that are closest to you are the ones that are not going to see it. But you go out there and you speak your dream, you know, to a stranger, they're like, wow, they see it right away.
Yeah.
You know, and that's
see it
just
outside
the way
the
life-
box.
Yeah, that's just the way life is, right?
Yeah.
You know, but you know, I've learned over the years. Sometimes I can remember 3 or 4 different times where I had to literally separate myself from friends, and for many different reasons.
Close the
Otherwise-
gap, huh, Jim?
Close it. Yeah, exactly. And you know, many times You're focusing on
See,
something.
for you guys, at least it was, like not a cultural thing, right? For me, it was a cultural thing when I first got into this.
Oh,
right?
mine was cultural.
It was
too.
cultural also?
Yeah, because I'm Panamanian.
Oh, so it was like,
Yeah.
like I had this deep, negativity towards, what I was doing. Like, commission? What? Commission? You got to go to college. You got to get a job, and you got to take care of the whole family. Like, that's what the pressure was on me, And when I took that step, I took a lot of hate with it, But you know what? I said, this is what I want to do. And I was always type of person who took that last decision. And I'm actually glad that's probably the best decision I took in my life.
So you didn't follow the
No.
status quo,
Like I did my whole life. I never listened to
exactly.
nobody.
Well, I'll give you a good one. My first 3.5 years or so, nobody knew I was doing solar. Nobody in my family knew I was doing solar. None of my friends, my everyday friends, knew I was doing solar. I didn't tell anybody I was doing solar.
Houdini.
Nobody. Seriously, my mother didn't know, my brother didn't know, my son, nobody knew I was doing solar. And
Was it
now,
because you weren't proud of it, or?
and honestly, I felt some kind of way
all did.
because at the time I owned a sports company.
I remember that. Yeah.
And you remember my sports, right? And that was doing great. And I needed, I had a lot of time on my hands. That's how I accidentally got into solar. And I'm like, I'm not a sales guy. I haven't sold anything. So that was my mindset. I can't do this. I'm not a salesperson. And then I realized I've been selling my whole life. Right? How did I start my sports company? Right? When they literally told me that you'll be lucky if you get 25 people at your camp. First time I did it, I think I had like 76. And then from there, it was like 150, 200, or whatever the case is. And the way I did it was I put myself in front of families, right? And I started speaking about my camp, and they knew my St. John's background, scouting, and all this other stuff, right? So, and I developed that trust, and they started coming. And that's how I did it. So I had to literally sell my vision, and they came.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Who's your mentor?
My mother.
Really?
My mother. That's my...
That's what. No.
Yeah,
That's the number one.
That's
I can relate a lot.
Yeah.
By the way.
I mean, definitely Mark Cuban changed my perspective of it, especially, hearing that he started at the doors selling garbage bags. I remember watching that Shark Tank, and he definitely had an inspirational entrepreneurial type of change in me when I heard his story, for sure, Mark Cuban.
How has your goals changed throughout the years
The goals and so
in your company? Yes.
now the goals is how many states can we enter? How many people can we bring along on this journey? Help them, become successful. And so it's all about helping people, whether you're helping a homeowner or you're helping someone in the solar industry. That's how things has changed. Before it was like, man, I just saw a $19,000 check. I can make that too, right? But after a while, the check is not even, it's not even important right now. It's just how many people can we help and bring along because it's a wonderful journey, right? When you're helping people, homeowners, and you're helping, individuals that want to do solar from a sales standpoint, and see how you can, mentor and have them grow, right? So that's where I am mentally now. It's just about helping as many people as I can on both sides of the sales fence.
Awesome.
How do you keep the negativity away? I know that you told me starting the company, you had a lot of negative reactions with you being a salesperson.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I said, it started when I first chose solar. I mean, the negativity was my. Those of you who don't know, my parents are first immigrants here. My dad drove, taxis all the way to working in convenience stores. My mom never worked; she was homemaker from the beginning. So a lot of pressure financially that I saw growing up. I mean, we're never like rich, or anything like that. I mean, my dad made this decent amount of money where we, used to live in an apartment, 3 siblings. I was the second. So when I grew up, it really didn't hit me that we didn't have enough money. I would say until like when I was like in maybe second, third grade, when like other kids started getting bikes or buying this and like and my parents couldn't get that for me. Then I started realizing, oh man. I remember I told my dad when I was in elementary school, can I work? Can I go get a job? Can I do something like pump gas or something like that? So like that story relates where they said, you got to go to college, you got to support the whole family. And I said, I don't think I can do that. I mean, does that mean I'm not going to become rich? I'm not going to make money? I was always down myself, and I was the worst kid in school and getting in trouble. My siblings were good. And I was like an aha moment when I first actually opened up my company to kind of like, and to show my parents in a good way, like I actually made it. I think I took that right choice when I first got into solar. But the negativity, you're never going to keep away, to answer your question, Brandon. It's always going to come sometime. No matter how big you become, no matter how many states you open in, right? I mean, there's always a saying, haters are always going to hate, right? So I think if someone is hating you, that means you're doing something right. Right? Yeah. I mean, if someone is bashing you, you're doing something right? So just keep your consistent flow, hang out with like-minded people, read books, like Kayla said, right? I mean, do the things that you love to do. I mean, right now we're selling solar and we love that, right? So it can't get better than that, right?
Right.
So let the negativity be. And I think you should just become a positive person within you and be a nice person. That's all.
Yep.
Is the haters what drives you, or what drives you?
I love the haters. Yeah, they do drive me. Whenever they leave a comment about solar or anything, like a small thing of a homeowner telling me that solar is this and that, and I know, because I believe in the product and I've believed in it for the last 10 years. That's why I'm still here, right? And I tell a new rep when he comes in, oh, I do this part-time. What do you give me? Can you give me a tip for part-time? I said, you're in the wrong field, because I've been doing this for 10 years and I haven't done anything else. Everything that I have right now is from solar. My 3 kids got born, that got raised from solar, solar actually saved me from poverty. And this is true,
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
I think when I first got into Polar, I didn't even have a place to live probably with my wife pregnant at 6 months, So it kind of like saved me, I think. It saved me. I think whatever, God showed me the way, that karma showed me the way, that
Right.
This is the industry, this is the people. And along that journey, you meet good people, like Gio and other people who are like-minded, Kayla, everybody comes in, Brandon. So just keep your nose clean. Don't worry about the haters. I don't worry about them too much anyway now, to be honest with you, because your actions speak for yourselves.
Right.
And that's what I believe in. As long as you're a good person and you're treating other people well, that's all.
Right.
Awesome. I think that's our closing. Does anyone have any closing statements?
Oh man, I mean,
huge shout out to Gio.
I appreciate
Kayla.
you guys, man, coming on
I
this
appreciate it
podcast.
for inviting
Having
us.
us.
No,
Thank
of
you.
course.
Yeah.
Shout out to Solar Glean. I'm so sorry.
Also, I want to give a shout out before we end this up to Brandon. Actually, Brandon is our East Coast director of canvassing. Actually,
All right, Brandon.
And, actually, I'm really proud of Brandon because he's only 19 and he's currently in
Wow.
Harvard.
Wow.
So
Man.
he's doing big things, and we have big plans, and hopefully we can increase this podcasting. So thank you,
Yeah,
Brandon.
it was a lot of fun.
Future ahead of you, man.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. Thank
That's
you.
awesome. Good for you.
I really appreciate you guys coming down. Hopefully we see you soon.
Yep.
And
yep. Thank you. I appreciate
yeah,
it.
Yeah,
it was very
thank you.
enjoyable. Thank you.
Happy
Thank you.
selling.
Thank you, guys. I
Thank you, guys.
appreciate it.